Fox 10 News at 9.
Now at 9, a sex offender murdered on the streets of Mesa, but police need help catching the killer. An arrest tonight after a car crash in the West Valley. One of the victims is a child.
Somehow, some way, his jawbone ended up in a rock collection.
And 2 Arizona cold cases are cracked thanks to the hard work of detectives and college students from New Jersey. But first, a news alert tonight. A shooting investigation in West Phoenix. Gunfire broke out around 6:30 near 67th Avenue in Clarendon. Police say one man was shot, a second was grazed. Both are expected to be okay. No word yet what led up to the violence. A man is seriously injured on a party bike in Old Town Scottsdale. His foot nearly severed, but a quick-thinking bouncer may have saved his life. Fox 10's Kenzie Beach joins us live with the details tonight. Kenzie.
Yeah, Brian, Old Town Scottsdale is essentially known for its party scene. Now, these pedal bikes, they take around a large group so they can pedal their way to the bars. And for one man last night, this bouncer described this situation as just chaotic.
People were moving around the party bike pretty frantically.
That's what caught Sumo Ramirez's attention. He says the pedal bike stopped in the middle of the intersection as he was checking IDs outside a local bar.
The young man's leg had gotten stuck in the wheel well and had been injured quite decently.
The veteran and firefighter stepped in, his natural instincts taking over. Ramirez telling us the foot was barely intact.
Started moving people out of the way, took off my belt, made a tourniquet on the upper thigh to help the person on out.
Ramirez says the party bikes are all over Old Town, but has never seen something like this.
Honestly, I believe it was just something along the lines of a freak accident, that just unfortunate event for the poor young man.
We reached out to Scottsdale Fire on this man's condition. We know that he was seriously injured, but is stable. But with many of these activities, you do have to sign a waiver. Live in Old Town Scottsdale, Kenzie Beach, Fox 10 News.
Okay, Kenzie, thank you. Mesa police need help solving a murder mystery. A man was shot and killed overnight near Recker and Thomas Roads, identified as 23-year-old Gavin Wadzinski, a registered sex offender, according to police. Investigators are treating it as a homicide, but if you can help, call the Mesa Police Department. A teenager is arrested after accidentally shooting a second teen at work. It happened Saturday in Surprise at a Wendy's restaurant near Bell Road and R.H. Johnson Boulevard. Police say a 16-year-old was showing the other employee a gun he brought to work. The gun went off, hitting the 17-year-old victim in the torso. Then the shooter apparently tried to hide the gun. He's facing several charges tonight. The victim is expected to recover. A driver is behind bars after a crash that injured several people, including a child. It happened Saturday near 28th Avenue in Peoria near the old Metro Center Mall, and started when police were pursuing a car that was driving erratically. A police sergeant tried to avoid the crash by then hit another car with the child inside. 22-year-old Anthony Curtis is facing several charges tonight. The victims remain in the hospital, but all are expected to survive. New details tonight on a wildfire burning outside Florence. It broke out Saturday near an Arizona National Guard training range and has burned more than 1,000 acres so far. For safety reasons, fire crews cannot go onto the range in case there is unexploded ammunition around, but they are on standby if the fire spreads. Crews have been preparing for wildfires all winter, like APS clearing brush around power lines, and pilots who attack these wildfires from the air. They've been practicing for weeks to make sure they're ready. They go on runs carrying 800 gallons of water, dumping it on a small target area while flying overhead. Not exactly an easy thing to do.
Fly lower, a little more accurate, obviously a much smaller load of retardant, but they'll string sometimes 6 or 8 airplanes together, so you're getting it one after the other.
Fire officials say May and June are at an elevated risk of wildfires around the valley. All right, we hit 100 degrees today for the first time this year, and the heat isn't done with us yet. Let's check in with Crystal for the details. Hi, Crystal.
Yeah, you know what, Brian? It has just been a toasty one out there the last couple of days, and today we finally did it. We made it to 100 degrees. I'm not necessarily celebrating, but we knew it was going to happen, so here it is. That high today, 100 even, is what we made it to. Now, the record for today is 103, so we weren't very shy of that record temperature set back in 1989. Look around the entire state. Everyone was warm. Prescott, Sedona made it to the low 80s. We're at 100. Lake Havasu And Casa Grande, you made it to 95 degrees this afternoon. And we're not just going to get out of this real quickly. In fact, what a change a week has made. Last Monday was 77 degrees, but tomorrow we will still be at 100. There is some good news on the horizon, though. We'll talk more about a cool down coming up.
That sounds good. Thank you, Crystal. 2 Arizona cold cases are solved tonight thanks to the hard work of detectives and some students from a college in New Jersey. It started when the mother in Yavapai County noticed a bone in her son's rock collection. Turns out it belonged to Everett Leland Yeager, a Marine captain who died in a training accident in California in 1951. His remains were buried, but the jawbone was never recovered. The Yavapai County Sheriff's Office teamed up with the Ramapo College students working in a new DNA lab, and some 70 years later, case closed.
Somehow, some way, his jawbone ended up in a rock collection all these many years later, and somebody recognized that it wasn't a rock, and they called the sheriff's office, and the sheriff's office took that bone and were able to send it in and get a mitochondrial DNA profile. And then the other one, Mrs. McCumber, Elizabeth McCumber, her remains were found down in Baghdad in 1986, remote area Yavapai County, by some hikers, and we had her remains. Nobody knew anything about her.
We'll have more on both cold cases and hear from researchers who made it happen coming up at 10. A jury heads back to court tomorrow to decide the fate of an Arizona rancher. George Kelly is facing a second-degree murder charge in the shooting death of a migrant. It happened last year on his ranch outside Nogales. Kelly maintains he was firing a warning shot, but prosecutors insist he was shooting to kill. The jury told the judge on Friday it couldn't reach a verdict, but the judge asked them to keep trying. An update tonight on a missing teenager from Chandler and questions for the young man she was with. 13-year-old Olivia Gertis has been found after she failed to show up to a friend's house. Police say she is safe and back with her family tonight. But 21-year-old Sean Ryherd is being questioned by police. The Valley honors Mother Earth with a good old-fashioned block party. The Climate Action Campaign hosted a Climate Solutions Now Earth Day block party. This was it this morning near the state capitol. It included speakers, live music, and art, the ideal setting for people concerned about the planet.
Well, I hope that people will be reminded that there's hopeful news on the climate crisis, that we are making progress, but we need to stick with it. We need to keep it up and keep calling on our public officials to do what they need to do to keep the climate crisis limited.
More than $10 billion has been invested in Arizona from President Biden's climate and clean energy plan. Up next, we're learning more about the man who set himself on fire outside Donald Trump's trial. Who was he and what was he doing there? Plus, from the Santa Monica Pier to the top of the Empire State Building, we catch up to a man running coast to coast and find out why he's doing it. And later, shake it off at church, why a Valley pastor is using Taylor Swift lyrics in his own sermons.